Hi guys, welcome to chapter 3. Big chapter. We're getting into DNA, which is a fascinating topic, but kind of complicated. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about DNA, and then we'll get into genetics and heredity once we've mastered DNA. All right, so first, what is DNA? DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. I know it's a huge word, but a nucleic acid is a special component that our bodies need. Deoxyribonucleic acid is DNA. And basically, it's the blueprints for all of the functions of our life. It stores the instructions for a lot of our physical characteristics, to build proteins that perform all the functions just to keep us living. Okay, that DNA is found in the nucleus of our cells. Remember, red blood cells don't have a nucleus, so there's no DNA there. But all the rest of our cells have a nucleus, and so they have DNA. The small kind of subunit of DNA is called a nucleotide. Let me get my pen. So you can see right here, this would be one just section of DNA. And each nucleotide has 3 pieces. It's made of a phosphate, a sugar, that's the deoxyribose, and then this thing known as a base, okay? So I've got my model here. Here's my DNA model. And you can see the little white squares in the end with the D, that's the sugar, that's the deoxyribose. And then you've got these letters. You've got this G and C matched up, and then this A and T. And you can see that those letters are always matching up together. Those are the bases, okay? This black thing on the side, that represents the phosphate, okay? And those phosphates on the edges is what ties the 2 sides together, okay? The DNA really makes this kind of ladder structure, all right? There's about 6 billion nucleotides in every single one of our cells. Okay, so again, the building block, a single piece right here, matches up with another one on the side, and then that makes these rungs going across. There's about 6 billion of those in each of our cells. All right, well, those bases have to match up. Like I said, they make what's known as a base pair, okay? And the A for adenine and the T for thymine, you should know those words, always match up. And then the G for guanine and the C for cytosine always match up. Now, occasionally there's a mistake, okay, and that can be considered a mutation, and those mutations can cause problems, including cancer. But when the cell is working properly, those base pairs match up according to those letters. Okay, and then you can see that kind of ladder structure right here with these base pairs going across. But then if you give that ladder a twist, you wind up with this structure right here. And this is known as a double helix. Okay, that is the structure of DNA. It's like a twisted ladder. Okay. All right, so let's get into genes a little bit. We're not going to talk about how they work, but those letters, those common, man, there's a fly in here. It's driving me crazy. You guys know what that's like. Anyway. Those letters on these strings of DNA, so you can see these kind of colors up here. Those are representing those different letters. Those letters are a code, okay? And those genes are a string of those letters, and they control something. So there's a gene for our eye color. There's a gene for our hair color. There's different genes for whether you'll have certain diseases or not. So all the characteristics and all the functions in our body, the production of all these proteins is dictated, it's instructed by these genes, okay? And they always occur in pairs. There's always a double set of them. And that will come into play a lot more when we get into genetics, okay? This structure, this little X-shaped structure right here is called a chromosome. And that is very, very tightly condensed, tightly wound DNA. And it really looks like an X structure. And then those chromosomes contain all kinds of genes for different things, okay? We'll get into how many chromosomes there are, and we'll get into some specific genes later, okay? The uncondensed DNA, this version right here, is very stringy. It's very thin. It's very long. That is called chromatin or chromatin. Okay, that is the uncondensed DNA. That would be represented with this double helix again. Ready for your mind to be blown? There's about 6 feet of that uncondensed DNA in every single one of our cells. Our cells are microscopic, and yet there's 6 feet of DNA in each one of them. Like, it doesn't even make sense, but it's so thin, it actually fits, okay? Again, God designed these amazing cells, this amazing thing called DNA that can be so thin, it can be 6 feet long, and yet when it's condensed, you can actually see it under the microscope. Okay, so here is a microscopic view of a whole bunch of different cells. These are cells undergoing the process of cell division, and we'll learn all about those different steps. You can see like the cells with the single dot, that's just a regular cell with a single nucleus, okay? The nucleus is all blacked out because that DNA is uncondensed. It's in its chromatin form, okay, uncondensed DNA. Those cells have to copy themselves, so the nucleus copies itself. We'll talk about that in more detail. It's still uncondensed. But eventually, before the cell divides, when you can see these kind of stick kind of objects here, that's the condensed DNA, and that's actually the chromosomes. And in this picture right here, they're being pulled away from each other because that cell is getting ready to divide. We'll learn all about that, okay? Then they become visible because it's all this tightly packed DNA. And you can kind of see what's happening here. The DNA is twisting, okay? And then it's twisting again on these little beads. And then it's twisting again. So if you were to take a string at home and start twisting the string, it's going to eventually start kind of winding on itself and twisting in the middle, okay? And so it's a much shorter, more condensed. If you twist that, it will do it again. And so that's what's happening with this 6 foot long string of DNA. It keeps twisting, so it's kind of continuing to twist on itself and get tighter and tighter and more condensed, okay? That's a chromosome, and that's the visible form of it, okay? This uncondensed form with these letters is what we need for producing proteins and that genetic code, okay? We'll talk about this more, all right? But that's good for now. I don't want to overload you. All right, see you guys next time.